Hi everybody, my name is Kennedy from Our Friendly World, and today I'll be showing you a pretty simple way to embroider a nose on your crochet stuffed animals or amigurumi. I'm using my Molly Dalmatian pattern as an example today. I'll be sure to link to the pattern and kit in the description as soon as it's available. Let's get started. As you can see here, I have the beginning of the head for my Dalmatian stuffed animal mostly crocheted. In my pattern, I let you know that this is a good point to stop and go ahead and embroider the details of the face. It is a good idea to embroider the details on your stuffed animals while your head is still hollow and it's not completely sewn shut or stuffed, but you can do this either way, whether it's stuffed already or not. So in this video, I'm going to show you a good way to embroider a nose across the snout of an animal. In another video, I'll show you how to do the eyes. Start by cutting a long strand of yarn in the color that you'll be using to add details to your stuffed animal's face and thread it on your tapestry needle. An easy way to do this is to fold it in half over the thick part and use that seam to thread it through the eye. For this pattern, I have a pretty thick nose covering the beginning rounds of the head here, so I'll show you how to do that. And the size of the nose and the amount of yarn you use will always depend on what animal you're sewing and what your pattern says. It may even tell you which rounds and how many stitches apart to make the nose the right size. I'm starting by coming up through the inside of the head here, out at this bottom center point where I want the bottom of my nose to be, and I'm pulling all the way through so that I just have a few inches left over hanging out of the back here. I'll use this to tie it off at the end. Now I'm going to start by going straight up. I'm going to do the left and right sides separate to make sure I keep it evenly. I'm going up a couple of rounds here because that's what my pattern indicates, going into the spot where I want the top of the nose to be and coming right back out the same point at the bottom where I started my yarn. Pull that all the way through. And now you've got the beginning of your nose. Now we'll keep threading in this same vicinity to make the nose thicker. For a couple, I'm just going back into that exact same spot. I'm going in between some stitches right there where the nose has already started and coming right out that same hole at the bottom and pulling all the way through. And you can see how my yarn got crossed here. Before fully tightening it, you can push it back onto the side that you want it to be. I'm going to just do that again over here on the side. And now this time I'm going to go in over a little stitch here. So I'm not going in that exact same hole. I'm moving over one of my stitches, one of my little bars here, and I'm still coming out at the exact same spot at the bottom. Do that a couple of times. And this could, of course, work horizontally across a stuffed animal's face as well. You could run your strands this way across. You would start the exact same way and just keep widening it as you go. All right, so I've got that side of the nose nice and full. Now I'm just moving over here to the left side, moving my needle over just a little bit and still always coming out that same point at the bottom because I want the bottom of the nose to come to a point. And now after a few rounds, I have a nice thick nose on the front of my dog's snout. For this pattern, I also want a little line for a mouth underneath. So to finish it off, I'm just going to move down one row here, put my yarn and my needle back through, and pull it all the way out through the back of the piece. And now I've got a nose with a little mouth at the bottom of my snout there. Now you can take the needle off of your yarn. And the reason I like to do this with the head still hollow is because I can secure it with a knot inside. If your head is stuffed, just thread your yarn ends out toward the back or somewhere on the piece that they'll be hidden, maybe at the bottom if you're going to be sewing it onto the body. Tie a couple knots on the outside, weave in your ends and trim. If you're working on the inside of a hollow head, you can even flip it inside out so that it's a little easier to reach. And just tie a couple knots with your yarn ends. You don't want to pull so tight that you're stretching and distorting the lines you made with your yarn on the front, but you do just want to make sure that it's nice and secure. So I'm just going to tie 3 knots here. Once those are tied, you could leave your yarn ends if you wanted and use them to stuff the snout. Since I'm stuffing with black yarn and I'm crocheting with white yarn, I don't want it to show through too much. So I'm going to actually just trim off my ends here. And as you can see, once you flip it right side out, your ends are secured inside and your stuffed animal has a cute nose now. There's so many ways you can use this technique to make different shapes. You can make it narrower, wider. You could work horizontally across instead of up and down. You don't always have to come out of the same point. If you want your nose to be wider at the bottom, you can go ahead and use the same techniques, moving out to the sides at the bottom as well. Lots of different ways you can use this simple technique to give your stuffed animal some character. And thank you guys so much for watching.